Operation Tidal Wave was a massive air attack against oil refineries in Romania by United States forces on August 1st, 1943. They were centered around the city of Ploiesti, which was home to 7 oil refineries, making up roughly one-third of fuel for the Axis war effort. The 1943 attack was preceded by an earlier one in June 1942, consisting of 13 American bombers. German and Romanian forces responded by greatly strengthening air defenses in the area, making it one of the most heavily fortified regions under Axis control. This included 40 batteries of 6 88mm, 4 37mm, and 4 20mm anti-aircraft guns each. The refineries also had many barrage balloons with long cables designed to damage the wings of attacking aircraft and an estimated 400 German fighter aircraft in the area. However, Allied intelligence was not aware of this buildup. They assumed that air defenses would be light, as had been the case during the previous year's raid. Additionally, they had not conducted any pre-mission reconnaissance flights out of concern that it would alert the Germans of an attack soon to occur. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill emphasized the need to strike at the refineries at the Casablanca Conference in January 1943, believing that their destruction would deal a crippling blow to the German war effort. Plans for this began to be developed in April 1943. A high-altitude attack, similar to others undertaken by Allied forces, was considered. However, Allied planners ended up settling on a massive, low-level attack to occur from a height of a few hundred feet launched from airfields near Benghazi. The attack would occur during the day to increase visibility of the targets and bombing accuracy. The bombers would follow a mostly northerly route from Libya, passing over the Mediterranean and Adriatic Seas, then crossing over Albania, what was at the time Yugoslavia, and entering Romania. There were a total of 7 refineries that were supposed to be attacked simultaneously. 5 were located within Ploiesti in a 13-mile radius. The other 2 were positioned at Brazi and Campina, 5 and 18 miles away, respectively. The raid was composed of the 9th Air Force and elements of the 8th Air Force. 178 bombers with 1,751 aircrew took part in all. Given the long distance involved with the route, all of the bombers used were B-24 Liberators with extra fuel tanks attached, and fighter support was not available. One other important aspect of the raid was that bombs with time delays ranging from 45 seconds to 6 hours were used. This was done with the intent of avoiding damage to the bombers from explosions or fires, given that they would be flying so low. The bombers took off on the morning of August 1st, 1943. They were supposed to observe radio silence, which created confusion as the flight progressed. As the formation crossed over the Pindus Mountains in Albania, 2 of the 5 groups using high-power settings pulled in front of the rest. This disrupted the timing and synchronization of the attacks, which was a crucial element of the operation. Another critical mistake occurred as the bombers were around 50 miles from the refineries. 2 of the 5 groups made a turn at the wrong location, sending them towards Bucharest, about 30 miles to the south. This also caused many of the crews to begin radio communication, drawing attention to their location. All told, 167 bombers arrived over the target. One notable aircraft that took part in the attack was Hell's Wench. It was flown by Lieutenant Colonel Addison Baker and his co-pilot, Major John Jerstad. Baker's plane was part of the group that made the previously mentioned wrong turn towards Bucharest. However, after warnings were issued to the lead plane that they were on the incorrect path and they failed to change course, Baker and several other pilots stopped following it and led a number of bombers from their group on the correct path toward the refineries. Baker's plane took 2 direct hits from anti-aircraft guns, causing him to prematurely drop its bombs. The aircraft caught on fire, but Baker and Jerstad continued to guide other planes to their target, the Columbia Aquila refinery. After the bombing run, they tried to gain altitude so that their crew could bail out, but the plane stalled and crashed, killing all aboard. Baker and Jerstad were posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. Challenges arose during the raid. Smoke from the first wave of explosions made identifying targets difficult for successive waves. Additionally, some of the aircrew in critically damaged planes had trouble escaping given that they were only a few hundred feet off the ground, as this didn't allow for enough time for their parachutes to open. In fact, the planes were flying so low that some of the bombers' gunners could actually attack the anti-aircraft guns from above using their own defensive machine guns. The lack of Allied airfields close by and long return flight over open water caused additional challenges for returning aircraft. One option the bomber crews had was to land in Turkey, which was neutral, but it meant that both the plane and crew would have to remain there for the rest of the war, which occurred with 8 aircraft. 23 returning bombers landed at Allied-controlled islands like Cyprus, Malta, and Sicily. Only 88 bombers were able to make it back to Libya, with 55 of those suffering damage. 310 air crewmen were killed or missing, and an additional 190 were captured or interned in Turkey, with 5 Medals of Honor, 56 Distinguished Service Crosses, and 41 Silver Stars awarded. The raid did not cause a significant long-term halt in production at the refineries. Although Allied estimates put the damage at a 40% loss of refining capacity, most of it was repaired within weeks. Axis forces lost 7 fighter aircraft and had 11 damaged. The operation was largely seen as a failure by the Allies, given the substantial losses of aircrew and bombers, along with its limited effects. However, the Allies continued to send raids to the Ploiesti refineries in 1944, though these were done from high altitude. Additionally, Allied advances in Italy allowed for shorter flight paths and for fighter aircraft to accompany the bombers. These attacks were effective enough that the refineries were only operating at 20% capacity by the time Romania surrendered to the Allies in August 1944.